Welcome and good afternoon. My name is Rick Hall and I'm the chair of the Board of Trustees of Ball State University. Thank you for joining us. Whether you're here at Emmons Auditorium or watching or listening via broadcast, we're happy to have you in the audience. Today is a special day in the history of Ball State University. We're here to formally install Geoffrey S. Mearns as Ball State University's 17th president. We are all grateful to have Jeff here with us. When I first started to spend time with Jeff, his deep commitment to his family was immediately apparent, and several members of his close family are here with us today. I'd like to recognize his wife, Jennifer Mearns. Three of President and Mrs. Mearns' 5 children are also joining us: Bridget, Christina, and Clare. Jeff and Jennifer, thank you for all the energy and passion you are investing in Ball State University. Let's give them all a warm welcome. With us today are several other special people that I would also like to recognize. First, I would like to introduce my fellow board members who are here today: Renee Conley, Vice Chair; Tom Bracken, Secretary; Matt Mopper, Assistant Secretary; Wayne Estopinal; Brian Gallagher, Jean Ann Harcourt, Mike McDaniel, and our student trustee, Marley J. Cox. We're also fortunate to have with us here today several members of the Ball State University Foundation Board. Here today are Stephen Anderson, Ken Briner, Mark Irvin, Dave Heater, Tom Kinghorn, Mike Ray, Mike Smith, Tony Smith, and Marla Templeton. Also representing the Alumni Council is Mike Early. I'm also pleased that several state leaders have joined us here today. We have Representative Greg Beimer, Senator Michael Kreider, we have Representative Sue Arrington, Senator Dennis Cruz, and we have the Indiana Commissioner of Higher Education, Teresa Lubbers, with us here today. We would also like to recognize the many Muncie and Delaware County officials that are in attendance. And finally, I'd like to thank the President's Cabinet, deans, faculty, staff, students, and alumni, and friends who are joining us here today. Thank you all for making Ball State the great university that it is today. Your commitment, passion, generosity, and talents have propelled Ball State to this point in its history, where it is now poised to have even greater impact on Indiana and our nation. To start the program, the Ball State University ROTC Color Guard will present the colors. Please rise and remain standing for the national anthem sung by Valerie Weingart, a senior who is double majoring in voice performance and creative writing. She will be accompanied by members of our student brass quintet.
Say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof
Thank you, Valerie, the Brass Quintet, and members of the ROTC. You will find today's event is different than your traditional presidential installment ceremony. There's no extravagant fanfare, and most notably, our program is not limited to representatives of the university. Joining me on stage are two leaders of our local community, Dennis Tyler, Mayor of Muncie, and Judd Fisher, President and Chief Operating Officer of the Ball Brothers Foundation. Rightly or wrongly, academic institutions are sometimes viewed as isolated from, some might even say above, their local communities. The Board of Trustees and President Mearns share a different perspective. Ball State's mission is to prepare students for future success in their careers and enable them to be productive members of society. But our job does not end there. As a public university, we have an obligation to use our resources to improve the quality of life for all Hoosiers. Much of the most meaningful work needs to be done at the community level, where civic-minded individuals from a variety of backgrounds come together to find innovative solutions to real problems. Soon after President Mearns started, he made a commitment to expand and enhance Ball State's partnership with Muncie. The board enthusiastically embraces this effort. There is no better place for us to start an enhanced focus of our resources on community development than in our own backyard, where we began, where we have called home for nearly a century, the city of Muncie. President Mearns backed his words with action, asking the board to hold his installation program in concert with community events and campus activities. One of those community events was yesterday's United Way Day of Action. We are proud to say that more than 350 faculty, staff, and students from Ball State University volunteered on over a half a dozen projects benefiting their neighbors. We thank all who gave their time to benefit Muncie, and we expect many efforts like this in the future. Ball State can be most effective in moving Indiana communities forward, not by operating in an isolated world, but rather by contributing to a team that includes private industry, local government, and philanthropic organizations. I would like to invite Mayor Dennis Tyler to speak about the meaning of Ball State's and President Mearns' commitment to the city of Muncie. Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Tyler has had a long and distinguished career in public service. Prior to becoming mayor in 2012, he served 42 years in the Muncie Fire Department and 6 years as a state representative in the Indiana General Assembly. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you again. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for having me. On behalf of the city of Muncie, I would like to thank President Mearns, the Ball State University's Board of Trustees, and the Installation Committee for inviting me to participate in this historic occasion and to bring greetings on behalf of our great city. My wife, Vicki, who has joined me today, and I are so pleased to welcome President Mearns, Mrs. Mearns, and your family to our community. Today, we celebrate the installation of a new university president and a new chapter in the partnership between Ball State University and the city of Muncie, ladies and gentlemen. This partnership is so important to both the city and the university. In fact, it's a partnership that dates back to Ball State's founding almost 100 years ago. In most college towns, the relations between town and gown are sometimes between the residents of the town and the students, faculty and staff associated with the school who for special ceremonies at times wear academic gowns. In some communities, the town-gown relationship can be strained and sometimes unfriendly. That is not the case with the city of Muncie and Ball State University. Since I took office in January of 2012, I experienced nothing but collegial and collaborative spirit from Ball State faculty and staff, from President Mearns and his predecessors, and from the wonderful students who choose to attend this great institution. A good example of a successful collaboration and partnership was with Emmons Auditorium, where we're at today, which celebrated its 50th anniversary in 2015. envisioned by and named after the 6th Ball State president, John R. Emmons. At the time of the construction of Emmons, it was a $3 million project. I bet you if Jim Lowe's in here, he'd like to have this project we're doing now for only $3 million. My parents and many men and women working in our factories and businesses participated in payroll deductions and other fundraising activities to donate money to fund the construction of Emmons. The community of Muncie raised more than $1.6 million, which is more than half of the funds needed to complete the project in 1964. Today, there's a beautiful sidewalk memorial in Cornerstone Park, located at Main and Madison in downtown Muncie, recognizing the partnership between the university and our community. When I took office in 2012, my theme was and continues to be, imagine the possibilities when we work together. We have seen how our community has developed and grown in the past 5 years, and that was impossible without the Ball State community. It has been an integral part in many ways through research, service projects, board involvement, and just yesterday, more than 300 Indiana Academy and Ball State faculty, staff, and students participated in our annual United Way Day of Action. We all work together, town and gown, at more than 25 sites in our community to assist our local nonprofits with tasks that they did not have the human resources to accomplish themselves. As President Mearns has said since the day he walked into this beautiful campus, we are better together when we all work together. Like President Mearns, I look forward to more occasions to partner with the university and your Board of Trustees, and welcome the opportunity to hear from the university community and the community at large about how we can further our relationship so that it benefits us all individually and collectively. President Mearns, if you could step up here for just a minute, please. As mayor and a lifelong resident of this great city, I thank you for already proving your commitment to our community. And on behalf of the city of Muncie, I would like to present you with this key to the city. We too believe that we are better together. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Mayor Tyler. We look forward to continuing to work together with the city. Our next speaker represents another key partner in achieving our collective mission. Judd Fisher is a great-grandson of Edmund B. Ball, one of the 5 Ball brothers. He leads the Ball Brothers Foundation, which awarded $7.25 million in grants last year to support arts and culture, education, the environment, health, human services, and public affairs. Our Alumni Association recognized the passion of Mr. Fisher and his wife Carrie, who's also here today, that they have for Ball State by awarding them the 2014 Honorary Alumni Award. Please welcome Judd Fisher.
Good afternoon. Since 1899, Ball family members have supported higher education in East Central Indiana. In 1917, family members were the successful bidders for a defunct teachers' college. In 1918, the Ball family deeded land, buildings, and about $1.4 million to the state of Indiana that eventually became what we now know as Ball State University. The Ball family has remained by the university's side ever since. From a governance standpoint, my great-great-uncle, F.C. Ball, was on the first board of trustees for the newly reconstituted institution, and today, Tom Bracken sits on the board as the latest in a long line of Ball family members to directly serve the university. Ball family individuals and private family philanthropic organizations, specifically Ball Brothers Foundation, the Edmund F. and Virginia Ball Foundation, and the George and Francis Ball Foundation, continue to support Ball State. My uncles, aunts, my father, my cousins, and other relatives, the majority from other states, have continued to step forward to further the education mission of the school. A great example of a recent example of giving to this university is someone that stayed in touch with the university throughout his time away from Muncie is David Owsley, who has given art and donations to the school's museum that bears his name. In 1927, the Muncie Chamber of Commerce formed a committee to find a way to thank the Ball family for its contributions to the greater community. The committee chose a famous sculptor to represent the family's hard work and philanthropic ethos. The resulting gift to the Ball family, beneficence, has become the iconic symbol of Ball State. The further significance of the relationship between the family and the university is embodied in beneficence. The grand gesture by the community that has since become a major part of Ball State's brand and carries the banner for a culture of excellence and curiosity to take on challenges and opportunities as they are presented. There's a solid 100 years of the Ball family connection to Ball State University. If I'm not mistaken, this is the longest continuous relationship between a public higher ed institution and its original benefactors in the history of our country. I hope the Ball family's efforts have shown how anyone can have strategic impact and positive lasting effect on this university. My early impression of President Mearns is that he is intelligent, warm, straightforward, tough, inquisitive, and a purveyor of big ideas, as well as practical ideas. He and his wife Jennifer have jumped into the local community so quickly that I'm amazed. Because of the transition committee that was formed for a purposeful indoctrination to the community, as well as their fearlessness, it is my belief that the Mearnses, as a couple, have learned more in a few months than most new BSU leaders and their spouses do in a year or more. President Mearns' effort to dive more deeply and meaningfully into the community is extremely exciting. Ball State's #1 priority is providing high-quality education. This is a given, but the university cannot stay on the sideline of everyday life. As Jeff well knows, Ball State is deeply entrenched in Muncie, Delaware County, and East Central Indiana with regard to research and outreach projects. As our community strives for positive growth and a modern identity, it is heartening to see a higher ed leader put such a fine point on his philosophy of integration with his Better Together effort. As a foundation leader and community leader, I have a unique view of the university and its interactions with Muncie and Delaware County. Jeff Mearns has some pragmatic as well as some cutting-edge ideas that need to be explored and supported. President Mearns has already challenged many leaders to communicate and partner with them so we can be better together. To Jeff and Jennifer Mearns, as a partner with Ball State and as a Ball family member, it is an honor to be in a position to welcome you to Muncie. On behalf of my family, I wish you good luck, happiness, and fulfillment in your life and work here. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Ball State University Chamber Choir under the direction of Andrew Crow.
Let my foot fall on this sacred earth, tread lightly as a falling leaf. Let my shadow from this blessed sun shut no one from the light. Let my dance beneath these holy stars grow stronger with thy years. Let my heart
My thanks to the Chamber Choir for a great performance. And thank you, Judd, for your kind words and everything you do for Ball State and Muncie. Now we will shift gears and learn a little more about our new president from a personal perspective. In fact, our next person has known President Mearns for all of her 21 years. Clare Mearns is the middle of President and Mrs. Mearns' 5 children. She's a senior at Northern Kentucky University and will graduate in December, a semester early. Her undergraduate research experience has inspired her to apply to grad schools to study health psychology. Ultimately, she wants to someday become a college professor. You don't want to become a college president? Maybe? Let's give Clare a warm welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Clare Mearns, and I am honored and excited to be here on such a special occasion, not only for Ball State University, but also for my family personally. My father and I have a unique relationship. To start, we are both the middle-born children in big families, me being the 3rd child of 5 and him being born the 5th of 9. I think my dad could relate to always being stuck in the middle. Another unique aspect of our relationship stems from the fact that I have experienced him not only as my father, but also as my university president. As Mr. Hall said, I will be graduating from Northern Kentucky University this December, and up until starting his role here at Ball State, my father served as the president of NKU. Despite being a very busy working father, my dad has always made time for us. After work each night when we were young, he enjoyed giving us baths, reading books, and singing us James Taylor songs before we went to sleep. To this day, when I hear your smiling face, I still think of my dad. On the weekends, he would play outdoor games with us. Although games are not always leisurely or just for fun at the Mearns household, one aspect of my father's character that all of my siblings and I inherited was his competitiveness. While most parents let their kids win in order to build confidence and self-esteem, my dad felt his role was to teach us to be gracious losers. Challenging us to unattainable goals was and still is one of his favorite pastimes. One story that my dad loves to tell was when all 7 of us were piled in the van for a long drive to the Outer Banks. Our family had a handheld electronic Yahtzee game that would keep us occupied for hours. My dad had the brilliant idea to make it into a bet. If anyone could beat his current high score on the Yahtzee game at any time throughout the trip, they would win $50. I was probably 8 years old at the time, and his high score was likely well over 500 points. So, we're driving through our neighborhood in Shaker Heights, and we had not yet gotten on the highway when, to my parents' horror, I screamed, "I beat it! I won!" And this is when my mother instituted the no betting with the kids rule, which my dad still breaks on a regular basis. The part of this story that my dad never tells is that he only gave me $5 and told me that he put $45 into my college fund so I would appreciate it later. Little did he know that I would earn a full scholarship to NKU, so I still have never seen that $45. Looking back, I see that part of the story as evidence of my father teaching his children the value of education. He wanted to instill in us that same passion and drive for learning that his father taught him growing up. My father helped me and my siblings to understand that through education, everything is possible. We must learn to know and understand those who have different experiences than our own in order to face the challenges of our modern world. I'm thankful to have someone who has set such an amazing example of how to remain intellectually curious throughout all facets of life. Since I attended NKU while my dad was president, I have a few insights into what you can expect from him as your university president. You can expect to see him around campus engaging with students and faculty, whether it's at the student center getting lunch or a weekend football game. My dad thoroughly enjoys remaining visible on campus and interacting with the people he meets. One thing that I hope you come to learn about my father is how much he truly cares about this university and the people that make it unique and special. He will wear the colors and be a champion for you in the community and across the state. So, if you see him out and about, I encourage you to introduce yourself. In the coming year, my dad and his team will be working on developing the new strategic plan for the university, and in order for it to be successful, they need to hear from you. My dad is a great listener, and when he says he cares about everyone's thoughts and perspectives, he truly means it. I want to thank everyone in the Ball State community who has been so welcoming to my family during our transition to Muncie. And lastly, I think I speak for all of us when I say that we are so proud of you, Dad, and we love you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire, for your insightful comments. It's clear you think your father's special, and so do we. We just didn't realize in how many ways he's special. Thank you. President Mearns has had a distinguished career. He earned an undergraduate degree in English from Yale University and a JD from the University of Virginia. After a legal career that includes serving as a federal prosecutor, he joined Cleveland State University. He first served as dean and professor of law at the Cleveland Marshall College of Law, then as provost and senior vice president for academic affairs. In 2012, he became the president of Northern Kentucky University. This background has provided him with a strong appreciation of the academy and knowledge of the campus environment. At the same time, he has great understanding of the opportunities presented to Ball State and a rapidly evolving higher education industry. And perhaps most importantly, the courage to lead us in the pursuit of even greater excellence. President Mearns shares our core values. He has championed student success and campus inclusivity. His focus on students first is essential to our success and is a priority shared by all of Ball State University. At his first commencement as Ball State president, he inspired our graduates to pursue their dreams and to stay true to their values articulated in the Beneficence Pledge: excellence in scholarship, academic honesty, social responsibility, and the intrinsic worth of every member of the community. At his prior institution, President Mearns' track record of success includes building relationships with constituents, faculty and staff, alumni and friends, elected officials, and of course, students. President Mearns eloquently articulates a strong vision that ensures all members of the Ball State community will have meaningful roles in shaping our future through a long-range strategic planning process. He wants us all to have every opportunity to enjoy the success that comes when we all work together toward one goal. Since he started in May, President Mearns has worked tremendously hard to get to know the Ball State community and all its stakeholders. On campus, he's met with students, faculty, and staff. As you heard earlier, he spent much time in Muncie with local civic organizations. He's also spent time on the road. He's attended several alumni events all across Indiana, in Muncie, Indianapolis, Fort Wayne, and has also been to Washington, D.C. In our capital, he met with nearly every member of our congressional delegation and even visited with Mike Pence in the West Wing. President Mearns has shared our track record of success with media outlets here in Muncie, as well as in Indianapolis and Fort Wayne. And when the State Budget Committee of the General Assembly visits our campus later this month, he will let the members know how much we appreciate their support and invite them to the groundbreaking for our new Health Professions building. He will continue to get to know our university and community better in the coming months. In September and October, you will see him at public forums where he will listen to the community about how to enhance Ball State and Muncie's partnership. In today's climate, some leaders seek to define themselves by quickly characterizing others' views. And then they differentiate themselves from the label that they conveniently and presumptively put on other people. President Mearns chooses a different approach, a more difficult method, one that requires both substance and strength. He chooses to lead through his actions. Under Jeff's leadership, Ball State University will do the same. The university will continue to chart a course that is uniquely ours, and along the way we will demonstrate our values through our actions, through the opportunities that we provide, the communities that we improve, and the lives that we change. In Jeff Mearns, Ball State has the right leader for the journey, as together we boldly move into our next 100 years. President Mearns, at this time, would you please join me at the podium? And I'd also like to ask Vice Chair Conley to join us. President Mearns, it gives me great pleasure to affirm your welcome to Ball State University and declare officially that you are now the 17th president of Ball State University. Congratulations.
Well, good afternoon. It's a privilege to serve as the president of Ball State University. And Rick, I first want to begin by thanking you for your kind words. And to all of the members of the Board of Trustees, thank you for joining us today, and thank you for giving me this special opportunity. You know, I've said it before, and it bears saying just once again. I know that you are individually and collectively committed to the mission of our university, and perhaps more importantly, I know very well that you have entrusted me with something that you cherish very deeply. And I will honor that trust with my best efforts. Mayor Tyler, thank you for your remarks. Thank you for the key to the city. Does it work? All right. That was unexpected. And as you know, I look forward to continue to working with you as a partner, as a true partner, to create a vibrant community for all of our friends and for all of our neighbors. And Judd, I was looking for the key that you might have. No, I'm grateful, Judd, for your presence, and thank you for your participation. You know, as people here know, for more than a century, you and your extended family have helped to build this city and this university, and you and Tom Bracken, you and your extended families, you continue that proud civic and philanthropic legacy, and we hope you'll do that for another 100 years. You know, all of us here are the beneficiaries of your generosity and your vision. So again, thank you very much. And how about the chamber choir? What you saw on that stage, those of you who are new to this university, what you saw on that stage is talented young men and women, and that's the talent that permeates the student body here at Ball State. They are representative of more than 22,000 students here. So I know that this day is a special one for the university and for the community, but I also hope you know that this is a very special day for me and for my family and for my friends. And I'm honored that some of my friends and some of my former colleagues, some of my family, friends and colleagues from Cleveland and Northern Kentucky have joined me here today. Thank you. And I want to recognize just a couple people if I can. First of all, I want to start with Neil King. Wave your hand, Neil. Neil was my father's college classmate, his roommate, and his track teammate. Neil has been a friend of the Mearns family for nearly 70 years. Now, back in the day, Neil was a world-class pole vaulter in the 1940s and 1950s, back when they used bamboo poles and then steel poles. And then he continued to compete as a master's athlete. And I can still remember, some of my siblings may as well, I can still remembering their home in Skokie, Illinois when we lived in Evanston. And I was a young boy at the time. Neil was the only person I knew who had a pole vault runway and pole vaulting pit in the driveway at his house. So, and of course, we had to try it. And I made a few attempts, but I quickly decided to become a distance runner because I didn't want to kill myself. Neil, thank you, and Diana for joining us. Your presence fills our family with so many fond memories. Thank you. So I'd also planned today to introduce you to my father-in-law, Jennifer's father, Jim Proud. A few weeks ago, the family gathered in Florida at his home to celebrate his 90th birthday. And he hasn't been able to travel much over the last few years because he wanted to be home with his wife, Joan, Jennifer's mother, who was ill. Joan was a kind, loving, and gentle woman. Now, when Jim heard, though, that we were having a big party in Muncie, he told me and Jennifer that he was going to come. But unfortunately, we learned late last evening that because of the impending hurricane, Jim wasn't able to make the trip. But Jim, I know you're watching the program on TV, and I want you to know that I have never met anyone who can squeeze more fun and more joy out of every day. You're a role model and an inspiration for all of us, Jim, and we miss you here, but we love you very much. That's deserved one, too. Thank you. So I'm one of 9 kids. 2 of the 8 siblings are here today. My sister Leslie flew in from Montana with her son Jason, who lives in Los Angeles. It's so good to see you. And my sister Tracy and her husband Eddie, they drove in from Cleveland this morning. Thanks, you guys. I love you very much. You also know that 3 of my 4 daughters, Bridget and Christina and Clare, are here. Bridget took the red-eye in from San Francisco last night, arrived just this morning, and Christina drove in this morning from Cleveland. My twins weren't able to be here. Poor Geoffrey, he's struggling through this fall semester in a study abroad program in Siena, Italy. Somebody's got to do it. And Molly is a sophomore, his twin sister. My youngest child, Molly, is a sophomore at the University of Michigan and just finished her first week of classes. And apparently I looked at the schedule. They've got a home football game tomorrow, and she's got to make sure that the team is prepared. So, Molly, how you doing? And you've heard from Clare. And as you can see, she's pretty darn special. But we're going to talk about those, what stays in the van, happens in the van, stays in the van a little later. The wonderful thing that you should know is that all of my children are special. Now, each of them is different. They have different interests and different personalities, but they share some common traits. Each one is bright, each one is articulate, each one is poised, and most importantly, as a father, each one is very kind. And no father has been more blessed than I've been. My children, though, have also been blessed, and that's because my wife, Jennifer, is their mother. Now, they're fortunate because as a result of some fluke of nature, they got all of her genes and none of mine. And what you should know, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't met Jennifer, that you are also very fortunate. You're very fortunate because Jennifer Proud Mearns is the newest member of this community. Thanks, Jennifer. And again, to all of you, thank you. Thank you for being with us this afternoon. I'm honored by your presence. So 3 weeks ago in this auditorium and at this podium, I had the opportunity for the first time to speak to the faculty and the staff and the board and some students at our annual fall convocation. During my remarks, I shared some of the impressions that I gained during my first 3 months as the president here at Ball State. I talked about our achievements, and I also talked about our future, a future that we know for all of higher education, a future that presents some challenges. But in my estimation, and what I spoke about was that our future also presents many exciting opportunities. As you know, those who have been here at Ball State for a while, you know we've gone through a protracted transition in leadership, but this institution is strong. It is getting stronger day by day, month by month, year by year, and that is just a fact. And that's because we've earned an excellent reputation for academic quality and academic innovation across a wide range of disciplines and programs. And that reputation for excellence and rigor continues to improve. Our facilities are also outstanding, and they're getting better as well. Right across the street, as you walked in, right across the street, the construction of our new health professions building is well underway. This $62 million project is fully funded by our General Assembly. And last spring, the state appropriated an additional $87 million to allow us to design and build a new foundational science building, which is also going to be constructed on the East Quad. As Rick mentioned earlier, we are grateful to our colleagues, to the governor, and to our colleagues in the General Assembly for that extraordinary support. As a result of their support, our university's financial condition is sound. For many years, we've managed our resources prudently and strategically, and this practice, as well as that additional operating support from the state, this practice enabled our board in June to approve the smallest undergraduate tuition rate increase in more than 40 years. So our affordable tuition, our beautiful modern facilities, our excellent academic programs, all of these continue to attract more and more outstanding students to Ball State. This fall, we enrolled more than 4,000 new freshmen, the second largest freshman class in our history. We were just three students shy of enrolling the largest freshman class ever. And compared to the all-time freshman enrollment record, which occurred in the fall of 1997, this year's class of new students is more academically qualified and much more diverse than that class. And in terms of overall enrollment, we set an all-time record this fall. We now have more students enrolled at Ball State than in any year in our history. And that's good, but more importantly, the number of students who graduate each year has been increasing even more dramatically. And I want to give you just one statistic. In 2010, we conferred approximately 4,800 degrees. Last year, only 7 years later, our students earned approximately 5,800 degrees. In just 7 years, that's a 20% increase. We now have 190,000 graduates living and working here in Muncie, Delaware County, and in Indiana, and in countries literally all around the world. And during my remarks at the convocation, I spoke about a few of our recent graduates. They've embarked on successful careers because of the education that they received here. And they've been inspired by our faculty and inspired by our staff to lead meaningful lives, lives defined by service to others. So this progress in my estimation is remarkable. And there are many people in this auditorium today, and there are many more all across our campus who deserve our appreciation for these achievements. But at the convocation, I also took a few moments to remind the faculty and staff that we are indebted to the people who founded this institution nearly 100 years ago. And we owe a debt to the women and the men who transformed a small teachers' college into the modern comprehensive research institution that we are so fortunate to have inherited. And I want to take a few moments today to just speak briefly about this history, because I believe, and I assume we all believe, that our history, this past, should inform how we plan for the future. Ball State, as you know, began as a public state-assisted teachers college in 1918. But as Judd referred, and as many of you know, this new college wasn't the first attempt to bring higher education to Muncie. In fact, there were 4 prior efforts to start a college or a university in Muncie. The Eastern Indiana Normal School in 1899, Palmer University in 1902, the Indiana Normal School and College of Applied Technology in 1905, and then the Muncie Normal Institute in 1912. All 4 of these attempts failed, and they failed very quickly. But these unsuccessful efforts were not total failures. To the contrary, these unsuccessful efforts demonstrated some very important positive attributes about this community. Our predecessors, like us, have the audacity to dream bold dreams. And these initial failures, they didn't deter them. They were just temporary setbacks that would soon be overcome. And so as we embark on a process to develop our next strategic plan, I hope we will internalize these lessons. I want us to emulate our founders. Let's continue to be innovative and creative. Let's embrace change. Let's take some risks. Let's not fear failure. Let's be persistent. Let's be tenacious. Let's have the courage and the audacity to pursue an ambitious long-term vision for the university. And let's examine that history. You know, after all, we're an academic institution. That's what we do. So we should study the past so that we can learn from those experiences. So then what is it that led to our success after our founding in 1918? Of course, there are many factors: talented, creative faculty, dedicated staff, good leadership, loyal alumni. But after speaking to our resident historian, Professor Bruce Galehead, and after reading his book, which is called An Interpretive History of Ball State University, after that conversation and reading his history, I believe that there is another determinative factor that has contributed to our success. And that factor is the sustained generosity of the people of Muncie. And I want to share just a few examples. And Judd referred to the first one in his remarks. Between 1918 and 1929, there were many significant improvements on campus. The state funded construction of 3 new facilities: a science building, the library, and the Burris Laboratory School. But the members of the Ball family, who invested their own money to establish the new Teachers College, also donated even more money to build a new gymnasium and to build a dormitory for women students. These private gifts, it was these private gifts that ensured that the new college would survive. Another period of dramatic growth and expansion occurred much later in the 1960s and 1970s. And as you heard in Judd's remarks, one of the most significant and enduring physical manifestations of that era is Emmons Auditorium. This beautiful space, as the mayor referred to, this beautiful space where we have gathered today. As you heard, because state law prohibits the use of state dollars for non-instructional buildings like this one, the university had to raise a significant amount of private contributions to build this auditorium, and it was because of the generosity of the Muncie community that Ball State received the private donations that we needed in order to reach that goal. And I recently had a chance to review the program for the official dedication. President Emmons, for whom this auditorium is named, said that Ball State as an institution and all individual Ball State employees should be, and this is his words, all Ball State employees should be good citizens because it is good business to be good citizens. Sounds pretty familiar. And Frank Bernard, who helped lead the fundraising campaign, that critical fundraising camp, he said as follows, this is a quote, "Only an extraordinary romance between town and gown could have brought forth such a beautiful progeny, an edifice designed to serve well the cultural aspirations not only of our age, but of all generations yet unborn." And those words are as relevant today as they were more than 50 years ago. Indeed, this town-gown collaboration, this extraordinary romance, it continues to this day. And that's because a substantial portion of the cost of the recent renovations, what you've seen in this lobby and what you see out front, a significant portion of the funds needed for those renovations were generated by private philanthropic contributions. The third and final example of the exceptional support from the community for Ball State comes in our university's first capital campaign in the 1980s and early 1990s. The campaign was successful. We raised more than $44 million. Steve Anderson, Steve, raise your hand. Steve Anderson was the chair of that campaign, and we're grateful that you're here this afternoon. And in that campaign, our alumni were generous, but 59% of the money, 59% of that $44 million was donated to the campaign from the community, from corporations, from foundations, and from other friends. That is a remarkable statistic. And it confirms my principal point. From our inception to the present day, our university has received extraordinary support from our neighbors. As a result of their vision and their generosity, we are an outstanding university and we are poised for an even brighter future. So given this history, what are we now called upon to do? To me, the answer to that question is clear. First, we must recognize that the future of our university will continue to be inextricably intertwined with the future of Muncie. As I've said, our university is strong and it's getting stronger, but as you well know, Muncie is facing some challenges, primarily because of the adverse effects of external economic forces. These changes in the economy have substantially reduced the number of manufacturing jobs in this city and in this county, and that in turn has caused a decline in our local population. And the Muncie public schools have been hit particularly hard. Now, I suspect that some of our faculty and some of our staff have children who attend a Muncie public school. But I suspect that many of the children of our faculty and staff do not. Mine don't. So as I've thought about this, I've asked myself, and perhaps all of us should ask ourselves, what would you do? What would you do if the students in the Muncie public schools were your children? If they were your grandchildren? What would you do? I believe the answer to this question is also clear. We all must do more for our schools and for our community, because if Muncie continues to stagnate, that stagnation will impede our ability to secure a bright future for our university. In short, we here at Ball State, we have a self-interest. We have a self-interest to support our schools and to help rejuvenate our community. I also think that we have a moral obligation to enhance our commitment to Muncie. That obligation derives from a simple principle. Because we can't repay those who have nurtured and sustained our own development, we must pay it forward. We must pay it forward to our neighbors and to the next generation. And I want to bring this general proposition right here to our campus. It was something that Judd mentioned as well. Just a few hundred yards from here is beneficence. The statue, as Judd said, the statue that is the iconic symbol of Ball State University. The Muncie Chamber of Commerce commissioned the creation of this statue from Daniel Chester French, the man who sculpted the statue of President Lincoln that is now in the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. And in the midst of the Great Depression, the citizens of Muncie donated $450,000 to construct beneficence. And they chose to install beneficence right here on our campus. What a gift. What a gift. It's another tangible example of Muncie's extraordinary contributions to our university. As Rick said, and as you know, beneficence embodies our continuing commitment to several enduring values. Values like excellence, integrity, and respect. But beneficence also reminds us of the importance of gratitude. Now, gratitude means more than just a verbal expression of appreciation. Of course, that expression of appreciation is necessary to be grateful, but it's not sufficient. Genuine gratitude requires us to act. Genuine gratitude requires us to serve others who need us. Simply put, beneficence reminds us now of our moral obligation to support our neighbors. And for me, this obligation is not just institutional, it is personal. At the announcement of my appointment in January, I spoke briefly about my parents. And I want to share just a bit more about them because it's relevant, it's pertinent to my principal point. I told you at that time in January across the street in Sursa Hall, I told you that my father was the first in our family to earn a college degree. I described how that opportunity transformed his life and it changed the trajectory of our whole family. He committed his entire professional life to teaching as a law professor, as an educator. But his commitment to education extended far beyond the walls of his classrooms and far beyond the boundaries of any university campus. In 1961, my father was appointed to serve as a consultant to the United States Commission on Civil Rights. In the early 1960s, for 2 years, he traveled across the South to prepare a report on the status of school desegregation in the wake of the Supreme Court's decision in Brown versus Board of Education. 15 years later, in the mid-1970s, my father was appointed by a federal judge to draft the court-ordered plan to desegregate the Cleveland public schools. My father passionately believed that every child had a fundamental right to a quality education. Not just his children, not just the children in the communities where we lived, but every child. Every child. In January, I also talked a bit about my mother. I told you that after raising 9 children, she served 10 years as a city council member in Shaker Heights, Ohio, and then, Mr. Mayor, she was elected as the first woman mayor of that city, and she served 2 4-year terms. As an elected official, my mother wasn't particularly preoccupied with building shopping centers and office complexes. She understood that those projects were beneficial to local and regional economic development, so she supported them. But my mother was much more interested in building a community center for senior citizens and building playgrounds for children and building playrooms for toddlers. And she built genuine personal relationships with people. To my mother, the citizens of Shaker Heights weren't voters, they were her friends, they were her neighbors. My mother greeted everyone with a kind word and a warm smile. And if she had met you just once, right? If she had met you just once, she would remember your name and she would remember the name of your children. That wasn't a political skill, it wasn't a stunt, it wasn't a skill that she developed just to secure votes. She remembered your name instinctively because she cared about you. In their private lives, my parents taught us the meaning of true love. They showed us through their actions that perfect love makes sacrifice a joy. And in their professional lives, in their public lives, my parents showed us what servant leadership truly means, and that the word servant always comes first. They demonstrated to all of us that the scope of our moral obligation to serve other people wasn't articulated, it wasn't confined by the 4 corners of a job description. And that's because for my parents, their responsibility to serve others sprang from what was in their hearts, from their deep, abiding compassion for all people. Through their actions, they taught us that each day we are called to advance the common good. At the beginning of my remarks today, I renewed my commitment to work hard to advance the mission of our university. And as an integral component of that commitment, my commitment to our mission, and to honor the memory of my parents, I will encourage our faculty and our staff and our alumni and our friends. I will try to mobilize this small army of talented women and men to partner with our friends and neighbors to secure a bright, vibrant future for Muncie. And that's simple. It's simple because that is what our history has shown us, and that is what my parents taught me, that we are all better together. We're better together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, President Mearns, for your moving remarks. Thank you for being here and your commitment to our future, a future that we could not be more excited about. You will notice that today's program is simple and is being held in concert with events that extend into the community. And that's why the theme of the President's installation is Better Together. As you just heard, the President and Mrs. Mearns believe in personal responsibility to the community and the transformative power of education, principles instilled in them by their parents. All of Ball State, the board, the faculty, the administration, and the staff work hard to provide world-class excellence at an affordable price. And while the efforts to hold down tuition have been strong, and each year we consistently provide more and more money for financial aid, the reality still exists that many prospective students face significant financial challenges. Some of those in the greatest of need are in our home community in Muncie. Today we are pleased to announce that President Mearns and Mrs. Mearns are establishing a scholarship at the heart of our Better Together theme. They are personally donating $100,000 to support Muncie Central students. President Mearns has spoken movingly about his father, who was the first in his family to earn a college degree. That education transformed the life of one man and the future of an entire family. Jennifer's family equally valued the opportunities provided through education. Accordingly, President and Mrs. Mearns have named this scholarship in memory of their parents, Edward A. Mearns, Jr., Patricia Simonson Mearns, James Duff Proud, and Joan McGrath Proud. The new Mearns Proud Family Endowed Scholarship will benefit Muncie Central graduates attending Ball State University who are first-generation college students. This will provide transformative opportunities for their families. This is an amazing personal investment in the future of Muncie and its people. Let's thank them once more. Lavish inauguration ceremonies and galas that go with them can cost well into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. President Mearns believes there are better ways to use these resources. The board completely agrees. In recognition of the Mearns gift, the board is committing the savings from not having an extravagant installation ceremony. As a result, an additional $150,000 will be contributed to the Endowed Scholarship Fund. Jeff and Jennifer, inspired by your generosity, the Board of Trustees, every member, and the Board of Directors of the Ball State University Foundation, every single member, has personally agreed to contribute to this scholarship fund, raising an additional over $30,000. Ladies and gentlemen, now led by President and Mrs. Mearns, we have more than $280,000 provided to endowed scholarships to first-generation college students from Muncie Central starting in 2018. Thank you, President Mearns, for your true leadership, vision, and commitment to Ball State and Muncie. Your and Jennifer's actions are an inspiration to us all. That concludes our formal program, but the fun is not ending. You're all invited to continue the celebration at the campus picnic on La Follette Field and join us tomorrow. at the football game. Walk Indiana takes place in the morning. Then at noon, we have Charlietown in the Cardinal Village. And we'll cheer on the Cardinals at our first home football game, which is appropriately Muncie Day. Thank you for coming and sharing this special occasions with us. I hope you will continue to spend the rest of the afternoon with us at the picnic. I think Jeff's going to sing some James Taylor songs to Clare. Now we will close with the statesman performing Cardinal Call under the direction of Andrew Crow. Thank you.
Swelling breezes, let our voices ring. As to thee, our alma mater, heartfelt praise we sing. Ball State University, friends and comrades true. Years to come may part us. Hail, all hail to you, to you. He's a Hoosier, so I guess that makes him all right. He's a Hoosier, yes, that makes him right. Though luck may be running against him, his sins may be finding him out. He's a Hoosier, that makes him mighty right, all right.
A Hoosier by birth, but a Cardinal by choice.
Hey! That makes him mighty right, all right. Fat banana, skinny banana, we are the guys from Muncie, Indiana. All hail to a gallant Hoosier, maker of songs the whole world cheers. His proudest boast, he came from Indiana. All honor to his Hoosier name. Oh, the moonlight's fair tonight.